classic system admin sort of model, whereas there's really no concept of a root level system admin for cloud. Right? So you have your SREs, you have your DevOps, and so on.
I think that brings up to me another point wherein there was the greater change required in the industry also. How do we educate our teams to make sure they are ready to take on the next journey? I think that was also important for customers to look at, and we were able to train our customer teams also so that they are ready for the next journey. So the next question is from me to you. You've seen that there's a lot of acceleration in the cloud that has already happened because of COVID. How customers really thought about cybersecurity this time versus maybe a few years back, and what is the shift that you have seen?
Yeah, this really continues the conversation that we were just having. So we had some customers who had some experience with cloud and security and using some of those services. But for many of them, it was the first time, and it's the fear of the unknown. Right? So what happens if I move my data to GCP or AWS? And so do I retain the same level of control? Are my compliances that I've achieved, that I've spent so much money on, are going to be still valid? So, well, on the one hand, I mean, we don't deal with compliances and such at DeepArm yet, but we mainly advise on the technical aspects. Right? So, if a company, again, this also segues into the whole hybrid cloud theme of this conference. So we had one company that had deployed a very large database interfacing with the web application, the whole thing on-prem. But now they wanted to move to cloud because they wanted to have their applications on cloud. But due to some reasons, they could not have their database migrated out. So now there was a unique challenge because previously everything was tightly controlled within the company's network. But now you have certain applications running outside the company network. And now this database had to go and connect to those applications. And they made a big mistake in designing with security. Right? So we were able to get into the corporate network through that tunnel that they had established between the database and the application. These are big challenging problems. Right? It's not easy to architect hybrid cloud applications. But when you are rushed into doing it, there can be some mistakes. So we had a bunch of those experiences as well. The other interesting aspect is also the healthcare theme that we had for this session. Because when it comes to healthcare, again, we have a wide mix of people working on these applications. So in many cases, requirements such as data localization, data residency was a big deal. Having the right kind of stakeholders, right? So there are doctors, there are patients, there are healthcare service providers, there are DevOps. So we had this massive matrix when we're working on this telehealth platform, identifying who needs access to what data. How do you define data classification rules? And then how do you implement that when it comes to application identity management, access management, authorization? So these were some very interesting challenges that we saw when it came to this, this migration during and post.
Awesome, great.
Cool. So let me bounce one to you. So when it comes to securing data at the cloud level, right? So one of the main hurdles as security people, we get this a lot, that security hinders accessibility and ease of use. Right. So in your experience, taking the example of like Google services, for instance, or anything else, can you give us some examples of how the accessibility does not come in the way of security?
Absolutely. So today, as we know, the users' demands are ever growing. The consumer side of technology that users use is way advanced than we sometimes provide them at workplace. And that's where they expect that our workplace would have tools wherein we can access information much more faster. They always had the flexibility of using or connecting through WhatsApp or doing maybe video calls through WhatsApp, while sometimes organizations does not invest on corporate chat platforms. They always expected one. Now, with that flexibility, today organizations have decided that they need to give these applications to the users, but with that flexibility also comes the data security risk. How are we managing that information? Because at times we have seen customers complaining that our corporate information is running on personal tools like WhatsApp and other places, right? Even accessing on mobile is becoming today. So mobility, they definitely want it, but IT wants to make sure that you need to have solutions in place wherein you can control that infrastructure. So Google has got tools and solutions where you can secure your mobile devices or even the laptops through which you're accessing. For example, let's say you do not have a screen lock on a computer and you cannot access your private data. So till that level, we are able to control the information now. And we see that growing. Google is investing upon multiple tools like Chronicle or VPN-less infrastructure through Beyond Cloud. So with that tools coming in place, I think customers are also willing to invest upon solutions which can secure their infrastructure.
Yes, shadow IT is becoming a big problem, right? So especially when it comes to BYOD, mobile devices, and work from home, lack of control over routers and networking devices. Shadow IT is becoming a big deal.
True. Okay, last question for you, Sumant. Where do you see the future of cloud security heading towards?
So cloud is already there. Right? It has been there for a couple of decades now, and that is only going to go up. The security aspects are going to get more and more interesting in different sectors. The tech industry has figured it out, but not completely yet. There are new challenges like achieving zero trust, for instance, in a hybrid cloud environment. On the one hand, when you have complete identity, complete control over your infrastructure, achieving universal identity, universal policy, network overlays is easy. But when it comes to cloud, it's a whole different ballgame. It's just a completely different playground. You need to play by their rules and so on. And also the other challenge is the areas such as Internet of Things and mobile and so on, because cloud is an essential piece of pretty much any sector and any architecture. And so we work on a lot of IoT projects, industrial, consumers, healthcare. We recently worked on a healthcare product for a company in the US to comply with the FDA norms and so on. And interestingly, I mean, it's a physical product, it's a healthcare product. We found nearly 3 times the number of vulnerabilities in cloud as compared to the device and mobile put together. Right? So that's the extent, because cloud is everywhere. So you can have an attacker sitting in Eastern Europe attacking servers in the United States, for instance. Such threats do not exist for hardware devices or local networks and so on. So we see that while cloud gives you this enormous flexibility, enormous power to implement really rich use cases, it also increases the threat surface extensively. And so many of these, I mean, when we do any kind of cloud security assessments or evaluations, we split it into 3 parts. So we look at the applications, the raw, the HTML, the portals, and so on. We look at the APIs. But one of the biggest pieces is also the infrastructure part. How have you configured your infrastructure? How have you secured it? What's the architecture? So I think stepping back, looking at it fundamentally, this whole cloud infrastructure security assessments and so on, that can be extrapolated to the actual products. So it's becoming more of a horizontal than vertical. That's where it's going.
What you're saying is, if I'm talking to a vendor for cloud, I really need to talk about the security along with that and make sure that it's a coupled solution.
Yeah, absolutely, because that's indispensable at this point. True. I think one last question to you from my side. So, can you maybe share an experience or an anecdote on how some of these modern solutions have helped as compared to the legacy counterparts, right? So, how things used to happen before versus how things are happening now, and how it has made the world better.
Absolutely. So, I would have a lot of them, but I would just like to share one here. Earlier, when we used to talk to our customers, it was really why cloud. Now, the question is not why cloud, like which cloud is the real question that we ask. And I think it makes sense with today's world that we live in. One of our customers in the manufacturing space adopted to Google Cloud, and then they said that how can we, and then COVID struck. I remember this customer talking to me and telling me, we cannot manufacture work from home, right? Working from home, really manufacturing companies can't work. So we really want to allow our employees to come to office, but make sure their temperatures are in place, their temperatures are good, they do not have any symptoms of COVID. How do we have a large organization with, let's say, 10,000 shop floor workers really get that information on a real time? Because if there's one person detected with a higher temperature, that can actually spread the virus. So we had built solution for them where at the gate through AppSheet, they gate when the employee walks in, they just have to capture the temperature, their vitals, etc. And once the person walks in, automatically at the admin level, you get a notification if there is a range which is not matching what you have defined for. That really and it was so seamless and immediate that immediately the person gets in and there's a problem. The next minute the person gets a call from the IT or admin that there's a and you need to come and isolate yourself or maybe go back home. I think there are a lot of classic cases. As the world changes, we see different problems coming up, and obviously technology can solve a lot of them. So, yeah, that's my experience on working with the customer.
I mean, necessity is the mother of invention. So I'm sure a lot of projects aggressively got implemented. So that's definitely true. We're seeing something similar as well because fundamentally we are a consulting and services company. But then once we started working with a lot of cloud-based web application developers, SaaS platforms, and so on, we started seeing so many problems in the cloud rather than their solutions. We had some hacked up solutions for doing the evaluations internally, but we are at a stage where we are now productizing it because there is a lot more value in something like that as against like once a year annual health check style pen tests.
Yeah, makes sense. Awesome, Samant. It was great to interact with you. I hope the session was useful for the audience as well.
Green.
Thank you very much.
Green bucket on. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Next up, we have a panel discussion on improving security and governance over your hybrid cloud. With a big round of applause, I would like to invite the moderator on stage, Mr. Sandeep Sannyasi, Consultant, Cybersecurity, Dell Technologies. Can we hear a big round of applause for gentlemen? Panelists are Mr. Sheikh J. Ahmed, Head Information Security, Governance and Risk, Mashreq Bank. Please keep the claps going. Mr. Devajit Maitra, CISO, Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail Limited. And Mr. Yogesh Kumar, Head of IT and Business Applications and CISO, Tata Advanced Systems Limited.
Okay, thank you everyone. Good afternoon. We'll start our panel discussion with our esteemed guest. Properly. So now, by the time everyone know that the value add of hybrid cloud services. So it's orchestration between our local private cloud to the multiple services from the third party public cloud. And most of the organizations are already using, and some are starting their journey. We have our panelists, and we know that it has own advantages. It gives flexible deployment in the environment, and also allow us to move our workloads from public to private cloud based on our needs and the workload computing requirement. But the major things everyone know that cloud service, cloud security is shared responsibility. It's where enterprise, where service provider manages the security of their infrastructure, but enterprises are responsible for the application layer and their data. So enterprises need to build their security platform and the governance platform for the hybrid cloud platform specifically to maintain the data leakage has been protected. It gives the overall visibility and control for the entire hybrid cloud structure, and at the same time we maintain the compliance and governance. So with this, I'd like to start our panel discussion now with Mr. Yogesh. If you can introduce it.
Hi, good afternoon, all of you. Myself, Yogesh Kumar, I'm heading the IT and business applications for Tata Advanced Systems Limited. I'm also working as a CISO. So we are into defense, manufacturing of equipments, critical equipments like missile launcher, rocket launcher, radars, likewise. So in nutshell, whatever you see on the Republic Day, we are manufacturing. So the security definitely is a foray for us, prime concern for us. And I would like to talk about those things. Thank you.
Yes. Good afternoon. Myself Sheikh. I take care of information security, risk and governance for one of the leading Middle East bank. Thank you, Enterprise World, for giving this opportunity, and welcome to Bangalore for from Enterprise World perspective. It's first time I believe like we are seeing and we are meeting here. And thank you, Sanasi, for the nice introduction. And I'll like look forward for a wonderful discussion today.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm Devojit Bhatta for Interval of Action and Retail. I'm looking after the security. I have wide experience in the network, infrastructure, and telecom business for a long time. And this is the last phase in the security of my career.
Thank you, sir.
So I'm not very good in security.
But you're managing the cloud services. So that's what we wanted to understand from you. So, Yogesh, I'll start with you. How your organization hybrid cloud journey and what triggered you to adopt the hybrid cloud?
So to speak, we are into defense. So in defense, there is a big no to the cloud. But looking at the adoption of the cloud, so definitely nobody can remain untouched. So one has to come up with a strategy to implement or adopt it. So the prime concerns that becomes the classification of services. So if you have a right classification into the organization and you know the environment, you know the business, then we can very well take up the adopt the cloud strategy. So data classification, material classification, asset classification, and service classification. That becomes the prime and most concern for this organization. So there may be things which can be put under the cloud. There can be the things which can not even digitized. So in defense industry, as you know, the army talks about the codes and different terminologies that are not even digitized sometimes. So then there are something which becomes confidential, digitized but confidential. Then there are things which can be generic. So for any organization, whether it is a defense or any other organization. So everything cannot be, we cannot put 10 locks to everything. So classification becomes that much important. If we try to classify that one, and then slowly we are moving the planes towards the cloud hybrid strategy. So one thing which can take control plane onto the cloud, but not the data. Prime concern is data. So data remains still onto the premise, and then the things that are which can be on the cloud is the cloud. Then one more thing, we are pretty much working on the AI/ML technologies, and on AI/ML technologies, the compute power becomes the major concern, and getting those high compute onto the premise becomes a time intensive. So it takes a lot of time to bring that, and it takes a lot of cost also. Cost is also involved. But we have a lot of simulation tools, so we cannot avoid that. We have to have. So in one of the discussion with the cloud service provider, I had discussed that how we can adopt that. If data, PBs of data, we can take out put it onto some cloud, but it is not uploaded onto the cloud and gone into the public one. We still have that privately protected control plane, or the computing plane is onto the cloud. They can compute and then put it back. That is already in discussion with the service providers. So this is how we are taking up the cloud strategy with us. There are a few concerns regarding security. So everybody is talking about the security, and nowadays zero trust, which is a prime concern. It's not a buzzword nowadays. So everybody is providing is going towards that strategy. So zero trust is not just a product. It's a solution. It's a concept. So we are also adopting that one, doing towards the micro management, going towards the micro segmentation of those services. So this is how we are starting and going towards the adoption of the hybrid technology. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think Mr. Yogesh has rightly articulated the strategy of moving into the hybrid cloud. So what is the priorities and the emphasis from an organization perspective, and also on the security perspective also. But a few things we can add actually, the priorities are basically from an organization perspective. The organization wanted to balance between the native cloud and the hybrid cloud, or the privately owned cloud kind of thing. And on top of it, it is always the organizational strategy where how it will have the course corrected and directed towards hybrid cloud kind of thing. It cannot be the XYZ companies moving into a hybrid cloud environment, and also kind of the same strategy since the other company is successful kind of thing. So is the prerogative of the organization how its policies and procedures are shaping the security and cloud strategy. So what is their 1, 2, 3 of the cloud priorities? How they wanted to a balance between the native and clouds, and above it how they wanted to justify the mass movement of adoption of hybrid clouds into premises and the
What is your journey for adopting hybrid cloud? Like an organization, what are the things pushed you to adopt the hybrid cloud service?
We are basically retail industry. So in the retail industry, what happens? So many stores we are having from Jammu to Kanyakumari, 4,000 stores across India. And you might have heard Pantaloons is one of the big stores, also Madura Garments, so many stores. So one is that. Second is that how the customers getting from the e-commerce platform so their garments. So complete the technological evolution into the containerization, virtualization, and the SaaS, that means edge computing technology, is evolving like leaps and bounds today's day. So that to combat, we have to see for the hybrid cloud configuration, because most of the applications today's day are going into the SaaS model, like Office 365, D365 in our environment. D365 is also Microsoft retail product, which is SaaS product. So like that, the day will come when there will be no legacy data center with based software applications. Most of the applications will be hosted in the internet, where improving the security no visibility. So the journey starts from here, the migration. What is migration? That is also a very big task, because the hybrid configuration of the cloud is very, very complex. And there is a lack of visibility and control. That is the biggest problem. It's talking about zero trust. There is no as such anything zero. If you go something school life, then you have somebody who are from the science background might have read the limit. The limit tends to zero. It cannot be zero. If you look at chemistry, minus 273-degree temperature, everything goes into zero. But in the solid state physics also, if you see the liquid gas, but these are not zero. It tends to zero. So today's step, what zero trust we are talking
Panel
about?
discussion is
That
going on.
microsegmentation,
Panel discussion is
remote
going
browser
on.
isolation, then
It's
software-defined perimeter, etc., which are basically SASE.
Going
Basically, these
on.
are the part of the SASE technology,
on.
which basically gives us the view of the zero trust tends to landing. We are trying to land towards zero, but not zero. So this is the first step I am talking about, the cloud, hybrid cloud journey. But it is a risk because there are so many complexity, so many vulnerabilities, so many hindrances are there, which are basically now slowly overcoming, but it is no doubt difficult task. Otherwise, there will be a problem. Like for example, there are blind spots. I don't know. I think people know what is blind spot in the cloud computing system. Then that time, if the blind spot comes into the containerization time, then there is a scope of, because then second thing is that there is no visibility, because in the network system, in the data center, what happens? You are able to track the data packet flow with WhatsApp code, something, lot of softwares are available. But here it is going in the data, in the cloud, you don't have any track. So these are certain steps which needs to have very, very careful thought process first to adopt the cloud chat.
Thank you. And those are the insightful.
Sandeep, I need to, I would add one thing actually. On the, before we strategize anything under the hybrid cloud journey, also need to have a look at our existing technological ecosystem. So it's like the journey and the futuristic roadmap, whatever we wanted to have, that need to marry well with the existing ecosystem. Otherwise, it will be completely like I said,
Right.
journey.
Right, yes. So we understand that data leakage is a major challenge we observe when we adopt a hybrid cloud, right? So it's a concern for everyone that how we'll able to manage, because data leakage can happen maliciously or accidentally by any way, right? So
Okay, sir.
how your organization, because you're you are in a banking environment, so data leakage when you are moving to the cloud, right? So how you are managing that data leakage part?
Yeah, thank you very much. Not from the organization perspective. First of all, like whatever the views expressed here from a professional perspective, not from the organization, I'm not representing the organization with this page. So see, like for not only for the banks, but like for any organization, let's say even for the retail or for the manufacturing, data is the reputation, is the image of the organization. And I do have almost 2 decades of experience into the Indian Armed Forces. I was in Indian Air Force, and before any of the corporate industry has adopted the cloud journey. Proud to say that like Indian Armed Forces has adopted it around almost 2 decades back, almost 18 years back. They were at the cloud actually. They are the first guys like who adopted the journey of cloud in India. Also, like being part of the like defense culture or armed forces culture, I know the value of the data. So how important it is, and like I mentioned, how like I mentioned, any small incident of moving the data out without any governance around it may play bigger, like I mentioned, damage to the organization and the country. So here in this case, like the question, like how the data can be controlled is first, like though this misconception, as you rightly mentioned, is on the bigger note for everyone who wanted to run the cloud journey, especially to the hybrid cloud journey. Everyone thinks that like moving will may not have the control over their own data and they cannot govern the data kind of a thing. There are instances, there are like the positive side of this one actually notation. So the reason behind is like the misconfiguration into the caches and misconfiguration into the network parameters when you move the applications in the data parameters into the cloud actually onto the hosted platforms. Another thing, biggest challenge here is how do you secure the data in transit and data in move when you access and store the data and retrieve the data from cloud actually. That's the biggest challenge actually. So since a lot of configurations need to be taken place inside organization at organization level, at the key exchanges and session exchanges, parallelly like having the control over the hybrid cloud environment. That's the biggest challenge and organization face. So even with the right plan and the right strategy and the right collaboration with the cloud teams and the security teams, it will be possible to have the control over the data, like I would say, in movement between the like I say, applications. The applications talking in the data terms between hosted and the non-hosted platforms. And if you can take the case of the bank, like between the core banking applications and the hosted application from the user perspective, the user data and all those things is highly possible. The biggest thing and foremost thing I suggest is like strategize the the hybrid journey from a data centric perspective, so that the governance can be established from day one, so that the like you have a layered approach to secure your data before it moves into the hosted platforms, especially after the hybrid journey actually. And on top of it, like have the 24/7 monitoring and take data security at the cloud, the security of the hybrid cloud environments as the shared responsibility, not as the individual responsibility of any of the event, any of the unit or function inside the organization. And how extend the cloud as security operations center monitoring onto the hosted platforms also, so that like any data move or movement can also be monitored and trigger alert to the right stakeholders, so that the leakage can be contained at its primitive state before it can like I said, create a challenge to the reputation of the organization. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And you touched the right point actually. So basically the same policies what your public cloud, private cloud is already have. How you are extending the same thing to the public cloud, that also matters. The same seamless encryption method between the two cloud you are managing, that also matters. Yeah. So another point is that visibility and control. That's the most important thing. So when we really worried when we face the audit or any compliance report we used to prepare, we used to worry that how hybrid cloud be able to manage that visibility and control, and those report has been taken care, right? So Yogesh, so in your organization, like how you are managing the visibility and control.
The visibility and control from the overall organization perspective into the hybrid way. So unless and until we have all the controls, all the rights with us, so we don't know what is put it onto the cloud, what is there and on-premise. As there, as I talked about the organization perspective, so we are not much on the cloud. So we always have on-premise those things, and whatever minimal footprints we have on the cloud. So there we have all visibilities from the say admin perspective. All dashboards must be there. What kind of logs are being generated if somebody accesses those cloud applications. So unless and until we have a good monitoring system, we cannot have visibility. So SOC, NOC, those all should be there. So for anything, whether it is on-premise or cloud, visibility becomes the prime concern. It is not that on-premise services cannot be ignored or something is not funded. So we have SOC services, we have implemented granular controls over there so that if something is missed from there, that it should be notified immediately. And in case we have given uh, the behavioral, we have gone for the behavioral analytics, what kind of data behavior or the access behavior is there into the organization, and what kind of servers are required to be accessed at what point of time, application servers. So across the different platforms, the orchestration layer to be maintained, and then the logs from different devices to be generated if that is monitored properly, and the alerts can be taken care of in timely manner, then it is good for any organization. So that is the prime concern, that any company can have visibility through the logs generating mechanism and the administrative controls of privilege escalation management, and then there are different solutions like IA and PAM solutions out there. So through which we can have a good strategy.
Thank you. Thank you. Devajit, question for you. Like we day in day out, we used to face that audit and multiple compliance report and stuff. Right. So in your organization, right, when you say that hybrid cloud we are moving, so how those challenges you are addressing when it is hybrid cloud? Governance and compliance part.
Compliance, we are not a regulated company like banks, regulations or RBI regulations or TRAI regulations like that. We make our own things. But the thing is that what we are talking about, the visibility and control, which I want to tell you, and the DLP, which was discussed just now. So, what is the difference between the DLP and a CASB? That we have to understand. DLP is the protection, and CASB is the function of monitoring the DLP. So it is reciprocal to each other. So in a cloud environment, the cloud DLP should have a CASB. Otherwise, there is a gap. So that is the fundamental. Second thing is that visibility control. Visibility is a big problem because when it is a packet and the packet cannot be tracked, that time we have to have some measures. What are the measures? Already he has mentioned that PAM solutions are there, DAM solutions are database access management. These are the certain solutions. I'm not going into that. But the thing is that at first, the blind spot has to be identified. And the machine learning has to be incorporated. How and why? Basically, when the data are flowing through the cloud, the man in the middle can come. The encryption is very important. How the encryption technology works. I don't know how many people you know Diffie-Hellman theorem. So these are certain theorems with this algorithm that works. And when this data flows, if there is an anomaly that needs to be identified and recorded, which basically machine learning will track. Machine learning is nothing but a multi-vibrating calculus in the mathematics form. So multiple variable, you can have one variable output. And the predictive analysis, which is nothing but a linear regression. So that gives the basic idea what are the alarms. Otherwise, thousands of alarms will be generated and nothing can be tracked. Because The tracking is done by human beings. SOC is a human run. Auto containment is already started, that is so. But auto containment you cannot 100% rely, because that will jeopardize the business requirement also at the same time. Because that is certain changes, because whatever we are doing, that is manual, our human brain. We are making certain assumptions that this will happen, and if this happens, this will be the result, and you block this. But if it goes beyond that, then there is a business case contradiction. So you should be very, very careful. The CISO has a very big responsibility with the liaison of the business. So that is a gap today's day. The CISO do not have complete liaison with the CIO. CIO, sorry, maybe with the CIO. So that is the one part. So the controls are based completely on the predictive analysis of the result coming from the machine learning. And that today's date is the only solution we are having, because applications are not compatible. Like for example, I'm a developer. I download certain things from GitHubs. I don't know what is there in the GitHubs. That may be vulnerable or not. GitHubs is an open source. GitLab is an open source. They give it. I'm downloading, uploading something. I'm not giving any guarantee that there is a vulnerability into that. It is your responsibility. So that is the thing. When you are in application, the application should be very, very homogeneous in a hybrid cloud environment, because the application vulnerability has to be tested very, very properly. Otherwise, like code review, black box testing, gray box testing, etc., etc. Otherwise, there may be a dangerous. So, security point of view, the controls are very, very important. Second, the most important part, we should start ISO 2770 or 76, I don't remember, that we have done it. That is for the cloud security control postures, which can give you the controls, whatever available, and what is your status. Based on that, you can take some steps, because you cannot take arbitrarily, because there is a limit of thinking, because you cannot predict human brain everything. You are somehow dependent to SOC, not hot, not so many things are there. But ultimately, this needs to be with a human background. What is required? So the elimination is very, very important. So whatever the today's date the vendors are doing, you have to judge it. I have a request to the security vendors. The predictive analysis today's date is a linear regression. So that is very easy. It can have a re-engineering thing, and that is what the hackers are doing. So that should be polynomial today's date. So and that is, I have read some magazine that US this aggressive research is going on for the predictive analysis to be done in the polynomial regression method. So this is the most critical part in our hybrid system. It is very, very agile, very, very easy for business purpose, because suppose for our example, in festival time, the business volume is very high. We go into TV, business volume in Diwali, Durga Puja, whatever it may be, and then it reduces. And in the cloud computing system, in the hybrid cloud system, you can have a flexibility to scale up and scale down. That you do not have in data center. So this kind of facility for the business is very good. And that has to be
Also
properly
Facebook and posting on
compliant
Twitter or any
with
other
the
platform. Social
security.
engagement. No, basically I'm a web
Thank you.
developer.
So,
Basically, I'm a web
we
developer.
have
This from
last leg of
enterprise IT
our
work.
discussion. So,
Webmaster, right?
last question for everyone.
Follow
Like
for
here
IT
in
work
audience,
and
there are people from
I'm
multiple
an
industries.
IT.
So they maybe have multiple industries and they may starting their hybrid cloud journey or they may at the mature stage as well. So
We are
they
just
might have
starting
building the
this event.
strategy,
We are just
security and
starting
governance
this
strategy to
like
improving their security and governance strategy for hybrid cloud. What should be your guidance in short?
Very difficult question because that depends upon the CISO's responsibility. How is visibility?
Greeting and
The visibility is basically first and foremost thing is to think about the how the system can be secured by taking the because whatever you cannot see, you cannot have control. If I can't see this door is open or a door, I cannot understand whether the door is open or closed. So the visibility is the first and foremost thing for every security people. So if you cannot see something, don't take it. So be careful when you adopt a hybrid cloud computation, hybrid cloud migration, then at first see what are the visibility are and how you can control those visibility. Whatever is not possible, you don't take that risk. So the process should be very, very rigid. That's all.
Thank you, Sandeep. Fellow panelists, Mr. Mitra has very effectively brought one point actually. I like it. Doors are open and we need to close it actually. Correct point actually. So on top of it, like when anyone strategizes their journey into the hybrid cloud environment, basically same thing anywhere and everywhere. Have the proper digital risk management brought into the cloud journey also overlap it. Second thing is create the right controls around the organization, like bringing the visibility, bringing the monitoring, having the governance as the shared responsibility, all these things comes there. And on top of it, like when you have the controls defined, have proper checks around it and the control effectiveness of these controls actually. So on top of it, like bring everyone under the lap of security responsibility for adapting and maintaining the hybrid. So that is the the safe journey and safe working together on the hybrid cloud sector. Thank you.
Thank you. What is your thought?
So for adopting any technology, first the environment study is very important. A single golden bullet cannot work for all. It's not like that some other organization has deployed it or developed it, so you should also adopt it in the same way. So that is foremost concern. Then I talk about the classification. You must have classification of the services, which should be put where and how many security controls are required to put it in. Then third one is the once you decide to move in, you have moved in, then you must have the visibility. There are the dashboards available for the different services, just like CASB, it will have a separate dashboard. Then we have some other solution which has a separate dashboard. So unless and until we combine and we have a central monitoring and central view of all the dashboards together, we cannot have a control over it, right? So whatever we develop and we go into the different environment, we should have a single dashboard where we onboard all the services. And as a CISO dashboard, CISO must be aware about that. And there must be different set of dashboards for different set of teams. So may not be CISO working all the time and looking at the those controls. or those alarms, the teams which is at the ground working. So those divided responsibilities must be there. But in nutshell, if you don't have a single view of all the infrastructure, all the risk that is there, you cannot prevent it. So that are the steps. Then keeping into the mind the governance and compliance is very important. Any company runs on certain governance and compliances. So as defense or banking or different compliances. So compliances are very important from the organization perspective. If we are putting something onto the cloud or onto the premise or onto the public cloud, private cloud, whatever strategy we decide, we must check with our own compliance whether we are meeting the compliance there or not. It doesn't matter that the cloud service provider puts into the A category or B category, it doesn't matter. But the foremost concern is the services that we need to adopt, and whether they are putting that services, they are providing that services, and the compliances that we need to adhere, either be ISO 27001 certified or some other compliances with the organization. So those must be matched, and then we should take a step forward. So these are few steps through which any organization can take up their very dangerous and meet the very dangerous. So IT is always enabler. It's not like let's say very dangerous. Just about the business. So business is important. Because business doesn't run by adopting any private cloud or public cloud. Very dangerous. So in market we see lot of products. Very dangerous. I would like to say that very dangerous. From solution perspective. So very dangerous. Is solved by that solution. Then it is very dangerous. Good to go strategy. So that may be solved by very dangerous. And how do they collaborate? How do they very dangerous is also very important. And how much they are very dangerous aspect of the organization, and how much they are sensitive towards the compliance of the organization, how much they are sensitive towards the classified data handling. So that all things must be looked at it, and then we should decide at a strategy. Formation of strategy. After the strategy is formed, a digital transformation strategy that everybody
मम्मी बोले मत कर, पापा बोले मत कर, आंटी बोले मत कर, मत कर, पता है मैंने क्या बोला?
Should put a solution, and the organization is transformed from one platform to the another platform. So in order to drive that strategy, you take one by one. Take one step, drive it across the organization, reap out, show the benefit of that one, whether we have actually reaped out the benefit, we have taken out the ROI of that one, then only we should adopt the another one. So it should not be like that all these strategies should be implemented one time. And when we talk about most of the time we
मम्मी बोले मत कर, पापा बोले मत कर, आंटी बोले मत कर, पता है मैंने क्या बोला?
when we are working on the ground, we are working to keep the lights on.
मेरे को प्यारा दोस्त बोला मुझको
To
चाहिए
keep the
थोड़ा
lights on,
सामान, आज रात घूम
that is
लूंगा,
also
पूरी
a
दुनिया घूम
important
लूंगा,
part.
तेरे पैर
So
घूम
it should
लूंगा,
not be like that.
पता है
We are
मैंने
trying
क्या
some
बोला?
strategy and just keep the lights on.
चरसगंजा मेरे को
Then
प्यारा,
the work is
चरसगंजा
just
मेरे
gone.
को प्यारा, सब
So,
कहते हैं गलत है,
so
घूमना
automation
पकाना
becomes
गलत है,
very
ये हवा
important
में
for
उड़ना गलत है, ये गाना बनाना गलत है,
for
पता
either
है
your
मैंने क्या बोला?
day-to-day work that you
चरसगंजा
carry
मेरे
out
को
in
प्यारा,
IT, and
चरसगंजा
onto
मेरे
the
को
security
प्यारा,
aspect.
यो बंटा रैपर
The technologies which were
घंटों
being
घंटों
used by the hackers 10 years back, we are still not able to use those technologies, right? So I don't know what are the technologies being used means we may not be aware about those technologies which is being used by the actual hackers, which may come across after some time, right? So we have to be safe. We have to try out we have to take these steps, keeping into the organization onto the top, right? Rather than be driven by the solutions that are present in the market or driven by the products in the market, right? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Those are very important discussion.
गांजा मेरे को प्यारा सब कहते हैं गलत है भूखना पुकाना गलत है ये हवा में उड़ना गलत है ये गाना बनाना गलत है पता है
Whatever we discuss, those are challenges.
चरस गांजा मेरे को प्यारा चरस गांजा मेरे
We need to follow the standardized things.
सुबह शाम रात
We
को
are quite
दिन
matured now in
मम्मी
our
बोले मत
private
कर
cloud.
पापा बोले मत कर आंटी बोले मत कर मत कर मत कर पता है मैंने क्या बोला चरस गांजा मेरे को प्यारा चरस गांजा मेरे को प्यारा दोस्त बोला मुझको चाहिए थोड़ा सामान आज रात भूख लूंगा पूरी दुनिया घूम लूंगा तेरे पैर घूम लूंगा पता है मैंने क्या बोला चरस गांजा मेरे को प्यारा चरस गांजा मेरे को प्यारा सब कहते हैं गलत है भूखना पुकाना गलत है ये हवा में उड़ना गलत है ये गाना बनाना गलत है पता है मैंने क्या बोला चरस गांजा मेरे को प्यारा चरस गांजा मेरे को प्यारा यो बंटा रैपर
Thank you so much, Chairman. Can we hear a big round of applause for them? Well, next up, we have an interesting topic, digital acceleration through hybrid cloud strategy. And this is presented by Mr. Manoj Desai, Global Chief Information Officer, STL. With a big round of applause, please welcome Mr. Desai on stage.
Thank you. Am I audible at the mic? Okay, all right, cool, thank you. I don't have any presentations. I'm glad. I hope you guys will be happy with that as well. I did not bring a slide deck, and that was my design. What I want to do is I want to figure out a way if I can interact with you. Do we have a mic? Already. So wanted to interact with you and yeah, perfect. Figure out where each one of you are. I mean, there are interesting discussions which are happening as a part of this particular. I mean, the prior discussion was very interesting. Before that as well, I think the concepts which were being discussed quite relevant, if you will. But I want to talk about where this audience is, because then what we will try to do is we'll talk for about 10 minutes on the interaction part of it, and then the remaining 5 minutes I'll just give you a couple of nuggets and then maybe leave the 5 minutes for Q&A. I think we have about 20 minutes for this. So curiosity question, where is within your organization, where are you guys with your cloud presence? So if you have, say, let's assume about 40% presence as far as your cloud is concerned, can you please raise your hand? 40% either of your apps, everything, if you in your landscape, if you put it
My
together,
word up on
it
the
turns out
step
to be
on
40%. Can you raise your hand?
because my ripping it got looking at bro. Like, isn't it? How can I rate them man?
The
Have
others,
you ever seen an open
I'm
still they jump out
assuming,
gang with a
okay,
fed
so
man there?
probably
Then I
let's
rock
extend
my
this
ops, can rock my blog, so you know it's
further.
like them man there.
Do we
My
have
bro just
people
gave
who
me
have
a
about
breakdown up. I bet you
50%
just send man
cloud
shit.
presence?
This thing saw
Can
this
you raise your
any now
hands?
things that man's gonna
Awesome. So
play.
I see a
I'm a
couple of
man
hands.
master right here. What?
How about
For this run, but
60%?
you man go you get pill right there.
Oh, okay. Yes. All right. Okay. So we're somewhere in the range of about 40 to 60% as far as the presence is concerned. The company that I represent, Sterlite Technologies or STL, we claim to be somewhere in the range of about 92-ish% as far as our cloud presence is concerned. That
No way,
includes
bro.
applications, the way our applications talk to each other, the data, the analytics part of the puzzle that we solve, the IoT part of the puzzle that we solve, the security that we have, applications that we have, we are somewhere in the range of about 90 to 92%. The remaining 8% is going to be a interesting journey, and I'll talk about that.
Yeah,
a
my
little bit
Dante
later.
place goes gooey.
But let
The
me
worst
give you an
reminder
idea
stewie.
of
I like my steak
how
on the
we
medium,
reach
dark or the
to
raw,
the
don't think
level
so
of
chewy.
the
All
90
this kind of
slash
band on chewies.
92%.
I'm trying to discuss
One
my
of the first
bluey.
things that
I'm trying
we
to
worked
me.
on
Cause the
was
man them there too
making
booky.
sure
Yeah, my
our
down dressing
connectivity
goes red.
stays stable.
Which is
So
immense.
we
If a
moved
man
to
extended no
SD-WAN.
forensic away
Is
that I
everybody
might get
familiar with
two
what is
step like a
SD-WAN?
mango flex. Might just say for the cause you know my style. Who you
have
know playing? I'm an
uses
OT
some
savage like
VLANs there.
whip
So
it, whip it. My cock was
how
jealous.
many of you use
Couple killers
IIL,
out. I'm trying to get my Richard.
ILLs and
Just link my
MPLSs for
prosperity
your
on.
network
Come
connectivity?
speaking pigeon. This thing wanna be my missus biggest back. Find a speaking. Exit,
Okay,
exit.
so interesting.
Accident.
If 4 or 5 people in
I'm
this
doing
meeting
late night
have
texting with Richard.
MPLSs
Now
for
this stuff
network
like this
connectivity,
I just snapped that one. I'm trying to make what's up professional. Or decent head out.
anybody want to take a shot at it? Because that's interesting. I mean, either you use, your ILL connections or your MPLS or some kind of internet provider somewhere for an SD-WAN. It's quite interesting. I don't see.
I'm using in my 4,000 stores software defined perimeter SDP.
Okay.
And rest of Panther stores, which are around 400, 500, that is connected or factory, warehouse, general office, these are all in SD-WAN.
Okay, fair enough. So SD-WAN it is. Okay, cool. Thank you. Helps. The point being is when you want to take your applications and your infrastructure all to the cloud, you will need we have 4 different business units and obviously tons of different applications. We have applications which have legacy somewhere in the range of about 20 years plus, and we're still using them. Some of them are fairly new, kind of the Salesforces of the world, if you will, and or I think there was some discussion which was happening on Google at the use Google, if you will. But then what we've also done is we've catered to different clouds for different functionalities, and that's one of the reasons hybrid is going to be important. See, there are capabilities which each of the service providers
go crazy, go stupid,
and
go crazy.
The advantage there is to figure out what steps you can leverage them. Capabilities are not that obvious.
Я думал, будет мощный мат. Я очень подпишись на канал. Я фотографии собрал. И самый новый мерин забрал. Это говорит. А я на Бали. Ты не знал, просчитал пару ролей. Ты просто проебал мои слова, там нищий. Ты, сука, пишешь, значит, сука, птица. Твоя катану как бы не попит, брать. Хочу умали соль, как ты шкура. Ты мне скажешь, ладно, деградация. Ты с нами, блин, хватит потерять, стучаться.
How many applications do you have in your landscape? Anything you want to take a shot at it? If it is personal information and confidential, don't share it. Give me ballpark number and I'm 65. All right. Anybody more than 65? 90 plus. Anybody more than 90 plus?
Go crazy. Go stupid.
200 minimum. More than 200. Anybody more than 200?
Go crazy. Yeah. Go
And
stupid.
it's not a bad thing. Please note, it's not a bad thing. So I guess the max was 200 on an average. We had somewhere about 60-ish as far as our applications are concerned. What I want to highlight is all of us are in the same boat.